I did hit the live button. Tally ho. Here we go.
Well, I guess that
No
means we
telling.
got no choice. We're doing it to it.
Yeah, we're doing it to it. We're going to see. Hopefully, we're streaming to all Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube tonight. I've got a new microphone, by the way, so hopefully my audio will be a little more consistent. My other one wasn't, I guess it was more of a directional mic. It wasn't picking up as good if I turned my head, so hopefully the new mic that I'm trying out will do a little better. And I'm still getting pictures and cuts ready.
Well, I just got my notification on Facebook. It just popped up and I shared it out. So, for the few folks that have come on in, if y'all will do us a favor and click the share button and share it on your profile, and maybe a few of your friends will come in. We're going to have a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. We're going to have a couple of guests. Jeff Sadow will be one, talking about the police jury. And then there was a lot of fun stuff in Bossier City today, Rex.
Really? What kind of fun stuff today? Am I
Well,
am I missing out or what's the deal here?
those walking quorums thing, something that's
Oh,
always hampered Bossier for some reason. It's hampering them again. But
they
look, I
just
got to.
keep getting on that borderline. Well, I don't know. This time they didn't even get on the borderline. They actually announced it too in a press release. I've got a screenshot of that.
Yeah, that's what's crazy about it. But hey, yeah, I got to tell you though, I'm Bossier. Maybe I don't know. I'm reluctant to say turning the page, but I got to tell you, I'm going to have to say a lot of positive things about Bossier tonight. I,
What?
I'm I'm going to have to say some positive. It's coming. You're going to hear it.
Well, that's supposed to be reserved for those two guys over there on that Sidewalks podcast. They're the ones that do the positive stuff. We do the, well, not so positive necessarily stuff.
Oh, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I apparently didn't get the memo. Kind of like the memo of $9 to $10 million is the profit that we're going to make off of
What?
selling water and processing sewer from Caddo.
Oh, man. So we got more crap to talk about, huh?
We got, and it stinks, Rex. It has an aroma that will make you want to gag. And
Hmm.
anyway, we'll just have to talk about it. But hey, we have another guest after that as well too.
Oh, that's right. Tonight is dual guest night. So
Yeah.
we've got who has turned out to be one of my favorite people to interview, State Senator Robert Mills, District, what is he, District 36?
Now wait a minute. You said your favorite?
Well, now, I mean, there's some friends of mine who watch the show that'll probably have a heart attack over that because I certainly didn't support him during his Senate run. But I gotta say, he's genuinely a nice guy. He does a great interview. I'm not carrying water for him or any such nonsense as that. But hey, I think he signed something that was pretty important. We got a photo of that, so that's always good.
I got to tell you, there's some other people that might be critics of his. They haven't signed, but yet he has signed. I mean, he stepped up to the plate. You're right.
Yeah.
Kudos to him. So, hey, we'll get him on and we'll talk about it a little bit.
Well, sounds like a plan. So I think let's see, we're up to 28 people. Since Facebook killed our feed that one evening, I don't know, our numbers have not been dwindling, and we appreciate everybody that's watching, but our numbers don't seem to have gotten back up to where they were. I think they may have not killed our reach, but decreased our reach a little bit, or it could just be that it's been kind of a slow news cycle. I don't know.
It could be. Anyway,
All right.
I say we
Well,
go to our thing and then come back and we'll hit it.
yeah, so folks, y'all know the drill. We're going to go ahead and do our countdown, be about 2.5 or 3 minutes. If you don't mind, go ahead and tag some friends, share this out, share it out in some Facebook groups, local groups, if you happen to be in them and all that sort of thing. Grab you a good stiff drink, make some popcorn if you want to. We'll be back in about 2.5 to 3 minutes.
They feel helpless, they don't feel heard, they have nowhere to turn.
In all honesty, we try to lay low a little bit because of the fear that we would not be able to camp there.
And I titled it A Shot Across the Bow of the Good Old Boys.
Hello, everybody. I don't think I've ever done a video before on here, but yeah, I wanted to tell y'all what frustrates me a little bit about permits.
The cockroach of the week is, drumroll please, Allie Feaster Smith.
We can't be apathetic about what's going on in our state. We have to all pull up our bootstraps and get on top of this. So you're right. There's a problem out there. I mean, and man, you can see it everywhere.
Well, look, we have allowed government to become our wherewithal to everything.
Well, I've not heard my name in stable or Baton Rouge in stable in the same sentence in a long time.
You're about to be killed by his Zamboni, or you're gonna die in 5 minutes.
This Bossier Watch live broadcast is brought to you by David B. Womack for all your contracting and construction needs. The Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 23 years in the mortgage business. Pelican Training and Consulting is an IWTP customized training provider with over 25 years of success to show for it. Call them for a free consultation today. Pelican Training and Consulting matches employers with 50-plus employees with training dollars. Smarter Geek, making technology easier. And the many supporters, donations, and folks sharing information and watching out for Bossier. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go. Okay, we are back. I'm holding my phone up to my ear, doing my usual listen and sound. Or see how I sound and how you sound.
Well, I want to point something out, you and your English.
Uh-oh, what I misspelled tonight.
Well, if you'll look at the cue card there in the middle and the subject matter, Jeff Sadow.
Oh, that would be autocorrect. It did that, and I fixed it, and it did it again.
I will tell you, I can't believe that. I mean, you know, you're like always on top of your game, but I got to say, I'm starting to think you're maybe overworked. You're slipping. Something's going on here.
Just been, lots of people with computer issues and plugging in a new mic and testing that and kind of revamping a little bit behind the scene. I don't know, excuse, but it's fixed for now anyway. But I got to say, we're going to have Jeff on talking about lawlessness and things that the police jury does in the shadows, sort of. So, maybe it was a play on words.
Well, maybe it was appropriate considering the subject matter. Now, he wrote an amazing article. I mean, I guess it's been a week, maybe a week and a half ago. We wanted to get him on, I think it was last Tuesday, to talk about the article that he wrote. And it's not that kind of everything, that some of what's going on isn't new news, but he really, I think, summarized everything that was going on really.
Yeah, and speaking of, well, let me answer the phone and see who that might be. Okay, let's see. We'll just go ahead and let's make sure do a quick audio check. Jeff, can you hear us?
Yes, and thanks for the correction.
Okay, and let me make sure it's corrected under your name there. Yes, because I have you have your cool picture up there and your name tag down there. And I put your Gmail address up there. I guess that's okay if people want to reach out to you.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, well, Duke, Jeff's on the phone. I've switched screens.
Yeah,
Let's go ahead and dive into it.
yeah, Jeff. Compliments on that article that you wrote the other week. That was a. I haven't seen what you published this week, but the previous week it was pretty amazing and on point. You know, you in my mind, you organized and summarized a lot of things all together and just brought it full circle for folks. And you know, we've got some cuts that you had sent to kind of close the deal because you pretty much you called the police jury lawless and seems like a pretty strong statement to make. And maybe you can spell it out, you know, why you felt that way.
Yeah, I really don't think you can see it any other way, given the pattern of behavior that we've observed over the last few years. You know, it all begins in 2014. Now, a few months prior to that, the jury had appointed Robert Berry to be its representative on the Cypress Black Bayou Commission. Just a few months after that appointment, he was named executive director. And you know, at that point, there's not a whole lot the jury can do. There was, in fact, at that time, there was no mechanism by which you could remove members once they're appointed for a certain number of years. You know, that's it. They've got their 5-year term. That, of course, changed last year, and I might add was resisted by both the commission as well as the police jury and some other area governing authorities. So now there is a mechanism by which removal on that commission can occur, and citizens themselves, in fact, can initiate that. But then, so we go to 2018 when Barry's term is up, and he's been executive director now for 4.5 years, and the jury reappoints him. Now, this is in direct contradiction to state law because there's a dual office holding statute, and that statute pretty much says that if the person from a governing authority, and it's defined in terms of the control that it has over the subordinate organization. If you simply can't do that, you can't appoint someone from that governing authority in that particular job. So, in other words, Barry could not serve as commissioner or and executive director at the same time. This is you've talked about this a lot on your program. But the thing is that this was, the jury may not have been able to do anything about it prior to 2018, but when it came time to reappoint him, they could have said, all right, well, you got to make a choice. You got to stay as executive director, and we won't reappoint you, or we'll reappoint you, but you got to step down. And he didn't. I don't know if there are any conversations like that, but that wasn't done. He continues to serve as executive director, and he also continues to serve on the commission. Now, this has been a matter of litigation. The Attorney General, and again, this is stuff you've looked at on your program. Attorney General basically has tried to remove Barry, and so far, the district court, which I might add, initially that judge being Charles Jacobs, now the city attorney for Bossier City, to the district court level, and then more recently at the circuit court level. You've had decisions that have gone the way of I guess you could say Barry, the commission, the jury, and the other appointing authorities. Although I'm I don't really I'm not really sure how it came to that. And if you look at the decision by the Second Circuit, it essentially said, well, yeah, this is true, but Barry, we've got all these affidavits that Barry didn't try to influence his fellow commissioners in any way when it was dealing with matters of the executive director, so on and so forth. And so they seem to think that it wasn't it didn't meet the statute. That this is, well, I'm going to say it should go to the Supreme Court. It may not, because Barry's term ends this June, end of June, and at that point.
Let me interrupt for just a second. Let me switch
Uh-huh.
screens here for everybody. So it actually has
Sure.
gone to the Louisiana Supreme Court, and so you may not be aware. And basically, I'm probably not saying this correct in legal jargon, but they granted the writ application for it with only Judge Crichton dissenting, and so that basically kicks it back to the Court of Appeal. They basically ruled that the Court of Appeal didn't rule correctly on it and kicked it back down to them. So we'll have to see where that ends up.
Yeah. Well, the point being that before that process ends up playing itself out, the jury may, commit hara-kiri on this issue and just not reappoint Barry. So, we'll have to see if how that turns out. But the fact of the matter is, at the very least, you can argue that this was a very questionable move, that in 2018, red flags should have been raised that, well, maybe this is a violation, and so, maybe we ought not be doing this, but it didn't happen. Now let's look at what happened just a little over a year ago with the retirement of Bill Altimus, and as parish administrator for about 20 years. And apparently the only candidate that was discussed was the then parish engineer, Butch Ford, who had been almost 20 years on the job. And he was appointed. Problem, though, was that at the time, and for 10 months after that time, Ford was illegally in the position because he was not a registered voter in Bossier Parish, as statute requires of a parish administrator or assistant parish administrator. And so it's inconceivable to me that this was not known by the jurors or Patrick Jackson, the parish attorney. It's just inconceivable that they didn't know this. Plenty of people around the courthouse certainly seem to, and yet, they unanimously he was put into the position. Now, back in October, on one of your programs, it was brought up from the Proton mail. Someone sent in a message saying, you need to check into this. Ford does not live in the parish, and there were some other things attached to it as well. That piqued my curiosity when I saw that. And so did a little checking. It didn't take much checking to discover that, in fact, he was not a registered voter in Bossier Parish. He was still registered at a Caddo Parish address, which you've mentioned on air from time to time with its catchy name. And so I the day after your show, I posted a piece outlining all that. And within 2 days, his registration was changed to a Bossier Parish address. And this is something that you've also gone over in your program, the rather dubious, let's say, dubious claim that someone might reside there at that particular address. But that's what's apparently on the rolls now in Bossier Parish. However, this created another problem, and that is that Ford, and this is a little bit out of the jury's purview at this point, that according to them, legally he can be parish administrator because he has this registration in Bossier Parish. But there's another state law which says that if you declare a homestead, then you must be registered to vote at that homestead. I checked today, just minutes before you went on air, and Ford is still has registered as a homestead. His name is on a homestead exempted property in Sadow Parish. So he cannot be legally registered to vote in Bossier Parish, and therefore, that being the case, he cannot legally be parish administrator. So if he is found by the Registrar of Voters, Stephanie Agee, to have fraudulently registered at that particular address, then, and that's canceled, then suddenly he's again out of compliance with state law in regards to being parish administrator in Bossier Parish. So, again, that's a little kind of a side note there. The jury's not really involved at that, in that way. But now
Well,
that
Jeff,
brings us to, yes.
well, Jeff, let me stop you right there. Wouldn't
Sure.
they just take the position that Patrick Jackson took to say, you know what, we're going to give you your wish, and we're going to see if the Attorney General's correct or not, and file suit, on behalf of the district attorney in, the 26 JDC to see whether or not he is breaking the law or that statute. I mean, doesn't it stand to reason that they would try that play, because that it's tried and true that they can go to Benton and get a favorable ruling, obviously, by the case with Robert Berry?
Yeah, I mean, you can, but it just defies. I just can't understand why it's just absolutely crystal clear in the law. It states that you must be a resident of Bossier Parish, of a parish, must be a registered voter in that parish to be the administrator of that parish government. And so all this, well, let's see, and all that. I just can't imagine why.
Well, it's pretty simple why. Because they know that the Good Old Boys Network that we've long complained about and all that is at play here. I mean, they know that Schuyler's office is not going to really do anything about it. And if he does, like, we've seen before, it's just going to go to the 26 JDC and they're going to monkey business it around and blah, blah, blah. And heck, by the time it gets anywhere, Butch will be ready to retire, and then no harm, no foul, right?
Yeah, maybe so. There does seem to be a playbook here. So, yeah. But so we've got that instance of, again, it's inconceivable to me that they did not know that the law was being broken. I don't know the workings between jurors and Jackson. Maybe sat him down and said, "This is the law," and they just chose not to follow it. I don't know all those internal machinations, but the law is clearly not being followed. And there's, in a sense, an admission of this when Ford, after this information became more public than it was, he suddenly changes his registration. So clearly, he and they knew that they were in trouble, and so that's an admission of guilt in some sense. So again, we'll just have to see how this plays out. But then we step back. We can look at just yet another example of the jury refusing to follow the laws of the state of Louisiana, and that comes with the Library Board of Control. Turns out, well, if you look at statute determines what a Library Board of Control is and does. It says that there are to be 5 or as many as 7 members. It says that one of the members may be the head of the governing authority of the parish or a designee. So that would basically be police jury president in this case, or designee. And it also it doesn't explicitly say that there can be police juror members on a library board of control or not, but there's again that dual office holding law, and it is extremely unambiguous when it comes to this instance, because here we're not talking about, say, a member of the library board of control also being the executive director of the library, which Bossier had one up until about a year ago that had been on the job for a long time. She no longer is, now replaced by Butch Ford as the interim director of libraries. But anyway, that all kind of started years ago, as a matter of fact, around 2016, when the jury appointed two of its own to be on the border control, and that accelerated over the years. You have another couple members were picked up a couple years ago, another one a year or so after that. And now, as a matter of fact, the last replacement, so to speak, making the library board of control, purely all police jurors, was accomplished in January, putting Juliana Parks in that final position. So now you have five police jurors on the 5 slots that are now allocated. It was 7, they moved it down to 5. On the 5 slots now allocated for the library board of control. We don't exactly know what happens there, because if you look at the minutes and the agendas for the board of control, we don't have any yet for October, November, November, December, and January. We don't have them. They haven't yet been made widely publicly available. I'm sure if you did a public information request, that would pry that loose. But you go to the website, and they pretty faithfully had minutes up and agendas up till October of last year, which apparently is when the big transfer of power happened, when Ford took over as interim director, when they scrapped their existing bylaws and basically promised, there are more on the way, and that's never happened. Now, so again, I think if you look at state law, it's pretty clear that you can't have police jurors serving on it. And really, in case you have any doubt whatsoever, the Attorney General a couple of weeks ago erased that when he put out a document that dealt with a different subject matter, basically minors' access to inappropriate materials in libraries, how to, just issues around that. But there was an interesting passage in there, which you've presented there to the audience, which, trying to answer this question: can the members of my local governing authority appoint themselves as members of the library board of control? Attorney General's answer is very ambiguous: no. And he goes into, explicitly says you simply cannot do that. But yet, not only did they start doing that in 2016, they've now completely done it. And so there's no, you can't say ignorance of the law is an excuse here. I mean, if they didn't know prior to that, this document itself made it very clear that that's the way that the law is interpreted. So we now have basically an illegally operating library board of control in Bossier Parish. The members that are currently serving on it cannot, according to law. So, this, again, this is just one more incident that shows this disregard of the law that the Bossier police jury seems so willing to engage in.
Well, let me ask.
I want to say something, Rex. What's interesting to the point, and the words and terminology that's being used here, one of the members appointed to this board is an officer of the court. You would think she would know better, or maybe even raise a red flag and say, I mean, am I right here?
Well, and let me add this tidbit in, Jeff, and maybe get you to comment on this too, as well as whether she should know better. I got and I haven't dug into this yet, but apparently House Bill 25 is going through the legislature down in Baton Rouge, which would give basically the parish councils and police juries more authority over the local library boards. Now, I don't think it's passed yet, and I don't think it's gone to the governor's
Oh
for the
no,
governor's signature yet. But
no, no,
what are your
no. The
thoughts on that?
legislature hasn't met yet. But yeah, you're correct. That Paul Hollis, state representative from the Mandeville area, filed that bill, and yeah, it kind of in a way replicates the bill from last year. Dodie Horton filed, and again successfully dealing with removal of Cypress Black Bayou commissioners. Yeah, state law again was silent on this issue about library boards control. So Hollis introduced that bill, partly in response to the Attorney General's publication as a means of trying to give more control over those library boards and control. Because in South Louisiana, in particular, there's been controversy in a couple of parishes about these boards acting in ways that apparently a number of people in the community were not that thrilled at, but they found they had no recourse to be able to remove these members or discipline them in any way. You just have to wait till the terms are up, and so you know that's why that's out there. But yes, that would be a vehicle potentially in case you have these boards with rogue or in this instance illegal members. Yeah, but of course that's if it passes and if it becomes law, that's still months away for that kind of solution.
No.
And you know these
No.
boards of control, you know they have fixed terms as well, so apparently they're in there for some time.
Now, Jeff, I wanted one of our commenters, and it's a frequent guest that comes on the show, and it's an anonymous profile, Mark Smith. And Mark Smith says the library board was out of control. That was the problem. You should be glad they took over. FOIA their payroll, and you'll see, not to mention the $10 million admin building that's not needed. Now, if I recall correctly, and Jeff, you may not know this, but Rex, I thought that the police jury approved all of those, budgetary things. I mean, I thought that was something that the police jury themselves approved. So if it was out of control, it would have been out of control, at the head of the police jury,
Well,
if I remember correctly.
that's correct, Duke. And as mysterious Mark Smith knows, I'm starting to think that he's actually not a lawyer because it wouldn't be a FOIA. That's federal. But you are correct that this is all operated under and Jeff, you can chime in and correct me if I'm wrong, but this has all been under the purview of the police jury anyway. So if it's out of control, that's already the police jury's fault. They do already have oversight, or had some oversight already. Let me phrase that a little better, of the library board.
Yeah, all that's correct. But the point is, the larger point is that let's say something is going wrong. You don't make something right with two wrongs. You don't illegally put people into a position to correct something. Why don't you go out and get 5 other citizens of the parish? Maybe they're your political buddies or whatever to people on the police jury, but not police jurors. And they can go ahead and do this cleanup if that's what's necessary. The solution is not to illegally put people on there, even if there is a problem.
Well, Jeff, let me ask you this. So, it's easy enough for us to say that the end game for the police jury and all this is to get, absolute control over the library's budget. And, I hadn't looked at their budget lately, but it's several $1 million at least. But what is your thinking on that? I mean, what is the end game for the police jury to exert all this complete authority over the library board? Why do this?
Yeah, frankly, I don't know, because this, again, has been a years-long campaign, apparently. I mean, sticking a couple people on there 7 years ago, but of course, this obviously something changed recently, because this accelerated in the last couple of years with as people rolled off, or in fact, in the last instance, the guy resigned a year early. So I don't know the situation is behind that. I don't know what the situation is behind the former director leaving her job. Rather, I don't know if suddenly is the word, but really without any warning, she suddenly resigns. So I don't know if there are any machinations going on behind there, and I'm not sure why that'd be happening, but clearly there's a reason for this. I mean, if you go out there and say, all right, well, we don't like what's going on with the board, again, there are legal ways to go about that, as you discussed. Budgeting, you go to these people, and they do have some independent source of financing from taxation, but you go to them and say, all right, well, we're not going to approve of this, that, or the other if you if you don't start doing these certain things. They could have replaced the library director. I mean, there are many other ways of doing this than sticking your own people on there illegally if there's a problem. So there's got to be, I think you're right. There's something else going on here. I can't exactly figure out what that might be, but something is afoot. Why? Again, if let's say there are fiscal problems of some kind or whatever, why do you scrap the bylaws? I mean, were the bylaws such a problem? Were they so encouraging of the behavior that apparently is being objected to? And why haven't we seen the new ones? Back in October, right after that happened, I know I have a screen capture from October 26th that shows saying something like, well, we just got rid of the bylaws. There are going to be new ones coming along in the near future. Well, we're 4 months later now. We still don't see any new bylaws, at least publicly revealed. And again, I don't know. I don't get a chance to go to the library board of control meetings and the like. They don't have the minutes out there. So in a widely publicly distributed way, we don't know what's going on. So who knows? Maybe there are new bylaws. But again, I don't understand why you have to stick the parish administrator in there. You have to scrap the bylaws. You have to put all police jury members on it. So I'm just not sure why these drastic steps are necessary.
Well, it's a mystery to us too, and pretty much everybody else, unless it's just a power and a control thing. But I doubt that's it. It's usually a follow the money solution.
Well, and
it's a pretty good decision rule.
I will say this, that all of these things that you point out, all of them, and that we've discussed, are all examples of why we need term limits, why we need, more accountability for our elected officials, more turnover. I feel like that the more eyes from the outside you get on the inside ball or the inside information, the more likely you're not to have, these kinds of shenanigans going on.
Yeah, it's certainly an advertisement for term limits in terms of foisting more accountability on jurors. The thing is, the jury is, as we know, has a history of opaqueness to it. Whereas all the other major governing authorities in this part of the state, so basically Sadow and Bossier parishes, they all have fairly very transparent information out there. I mean, they publish their agendas. They publish with their agendas supporting documents. They record, they broadcast and record in a very accessible way. Let's say their meetings. They don't have a rinky-dink Facebook Live presentation where you can't even tell who's speaking most of the time. And they don't show the votes when they happen. There's about the only information that's even disseminated is they'll show some plats of property being rezoned. And that's about it. they lost the entire, or didn't broadcast and didn't archive, therefore, the entire December meeting that went over the approval of the budget. We have, again, these are the kinds of things that you could get through public information requests, but why do that? I mean, it's so much easier. And the other, Bossier City, the school boards, and then over in Caddo Parish, Shreveport, Caddo Parish School Board, Caddo Parish Commission, they publish all this information out there prior to meetings. I mean, it's the internet. It's easy now. But they stubbornly don't do it. And it's interesting because over 2 years ago, I posed this question to the public information officer over there. I've known a long time, Pat Culverhouse. I said, what do you guys, this is really, your Facebook Live is really rinky-dink. You don't provide this information prior to meetings and like. There are any plans to do it? Are you going to do this? And he wrote me back and he said, it's coming. Just be patient. Well, it's over 2 years and nothing's happened. So you really have to question the fidelity that these people have towards the concept of being open and transparent in governance. That's what promotes accountability, and we're just not seeing that.
Well, using open and transparent and the word accountability along with Bossier Parish government bodies does not usually go well in the same sentence. And look, we appreciate you staying on top of this stuff as well as putting out a great newsletter. We would encourage everybody to go to the Bossier Views page on, I think, bossierviews.substack.com. And sign up for your newsletter and read all your stuff because you really put out some good information, Jeff.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it, and happy Mardi Gras, and you guys keep up the good work.
We appreciate you coming on and trying to fill us in with some more information about our local governments. It just seems to be never ending. So you're welcome anytime, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks.
All right.
So Ed Burchett says term limits only work when the next electee isn't a proxy for the other.
Well, that's a good point. Let me put that comment up on the screen. Look, and we've talked not to go too far off into term limits because I don't think we want to yet or whatever, but there are some valid arguments against term limits. I don't agree with them on balance. I'm certainly for term limits, but that's a good point right there.
Now, Bradley McKenty says we left because we moved to the Dallas area. She works, I'm assuming he's talking about his wife, who was the administrator of the library system. She works with real leaders now, not criminals. That's pretty powerful right there.
Well, by definition, if they are in fact violating the law, then they are in fact criminals.
But that begs a question. If they're violating the law and there's nobody that will enforce the law, I mean, what does that make our society? What does it make our government, our elected officials that don't enforce the law? I mean, Rex, we showed a video of the park director using what is alleged to be park equipment on his private business.
Yeah.
I mean, have you heard anything about it? I'm just wondering. Has anybody said anything?
Wait a minute. Let's see. You hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Crickets.
So if we're going to be a lawless society, or that's the way it's going to be, then why isn't everyone able to just go and break the law?
Well, and
why don't we all? I mean, why don't we all just go do whatever we want to do?
Our good friend Ryan Haygood brings up a good point. He says if we all got involved and continued to call out corruption, we wouldn't need term limits. That's true, and we're doing our part with the show and doing the Facebook Lives and all that sort of thing and showing the documents. But you're right, Ryan. it takes everybody getting involved, and there's still a lot of empty seats at the council meetings. There's a lot of empty seats at the police jury meetings, unless it's something big like today the whole SPORTRAN mucho dinero deal. But half the time it's crickets chirping in the peanut gallery.
Well, with the ideal that I was talking about just a second ago is, about us not. I mean, if there is no law and nobody's going to enforce the law, and we're just going to do whatever, and everybody can do whatever, But what it comes down to is if we have these governmental entities that are going to disregard the law and not enforce the law. Thomas Bastiat, prior to the founding of the United States, wrote a book called The Law. And in that, he called having governments that basically pick the winners and losers and enable the breaking of law. He coined the term legal plunder, where you use the law to enable, people who are, aligned with the government to basically plunder all the rest of us. And arguably, that's what one could say is that that's what we're living in today, is legal plunder by our government.
Yeah, that is a good point. All right. What's our next topic?
You didn't think I had all that philosophical stuff on me, did you?
I didn't think so. I mean,
Uh,
you always talk about being from Houghton like that's something terrible, but you got a little philosophical there, and reached in your back pocket and pulled out your history book a little bit.
See, I'm gonna throw Jane Smith a bone. See, she did teach me to read out there. Okay.
Yeah, there is hope yet. All right, so I hadn't even been following the notes yet, really. Of course, naturally, I haven't. But
well, we are down to the great gift of Bossier City. I don't know what this show would be if we didn't have Bossier City. I just don't know.
Right. Well, they're the gift that keeps on giving. We've been on Bossier City for quite a while, obviously being the city council and the mayor's office and all that. That means that we haven't had our full attention on the police jury and other, plain dealing and other things going on as well, although we haven't forgot about them. So, oh, look, there's Jane. She put a comment up. She said, so proud of you, Duke. Yes. Looky there.
Well, that could change from week to week with this show. She may hate me next week.
Yeah, there's no telling. But anyway, so shall we move on to the city council next and give an update there?
Yeah, we got to get there. So SPORTRAN, I hear, was a hot topic in Bossier today.
Well, it was apparently up until the city council meeting.
Yeah. Well, why do you say that? Because not everybody watched the city council meeting today.
Yeah, but in the city council meeting, when it came to mucho dinero and all the folks that he had to come speak on behalf of SPORTRAN, getting an extra $400,000 or whatever it was from the city council, guess what it was again?
What?
Crickets.
More crickets?
More crickets.
Okay.
More crickets.
Okay.
So, and I think we have some of that queued up. Let's see. Let me switch our screens over here. Are we ready for that?
Yeah, go ahead, because I'm trying to get my video up. So you go ahead.
Okay, let me try to get us switched over here. So bear with me just a second, folks. Got to get the technical deals switched around and blah 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 and back to live mode. Okay, so this is about item or agenda item number 1, which was going to be the discussion of reducing the SPORTRAN budget. I think it was $400,000 if I remember off the top of my head. But anyway, this is when it came up in the meeting. So let's take a listen.
No, we need to do it now.
We knew it now.
If you are deleting anything off the agenda, I mean, you can delete it at this point, or you can wait till you get down there to it.
Yeah.
What's your choice, Mr. Darby? Now?
Yeah, do it now.
All right, I'd like to make the motion that we delete item 1 under unfinished business.
Is that a second?
Second. And regarding this issue, which many of you are here for your representation, There will be at the conclusion of the meeting, our public information officer will read a statement regarding the city council and their path going forward. Any questions that you may have after this statement is read at the conclusion of the meeting, Aaron will read it, and any questions should be forwarded to the administration. Thank you.
Okay. So we have a motion, Council, to delete item 1.
All right. So,
And
what?
Mr. Montgomery made.
What?
So
So
first, I'd like
what's
first
the
I'd like
problem there?
well, a couple of things, but first off, I would like to point out: did you notice how loud Queen David was in that
I
video?
know he was hurting my ears, but that's not an
Perfect.
abnormal thing.
Well,
But
true.
this time he was hurting my ears.
So on a technical level, they can be quiet all they want, but I'm able to boost their audio in real time. So, we might get lucky and pick up a hot mic every now and then and some interesting comments. But here's the deal. So basically they kicked the can not even down the curb. They just kicked it all the way off the sidewalk, apparently. And issued a press release that you're just going to have to read this to actually believe what they threw Aaron in the middle of. I mean, she's a public information officer. I guess she didn't write it, or I don't know, maybe they did. But apparently, Queen David and his buddy Zamboni Jacobs, again, need to brush up on open meetings laws because they're pretty much borderline, if not way over the line, trying to do walking quorums again. Now, they've gotten their hands smacked about that before.
Well, wait a minute. He just said, Queen David just said, hey, you need to talk to the administration or whatever, and the public information officer will have a statement after the fact. So,
well, they
what
did do a statement after the fact. Now I'm going to try to switch screens over here while I'm talking, so this should be interesting. But basically, now I wasn't at the meeting, but this is coming from firsthand somebody that was at the meeting. They did issue a statement and a press release at the meeting. So let me see if I can find this real quick. Let's see. What cut did I? Here we go. Cut 20. Let me see if I can bring this up. So this is the press release. Of course, it's got my, cute little emoji deals on it. But it says, the Bossier City Council has voted to remove item number 1 under unfinished business, blah, blah, blah. Here's the key point. Paragraph number 2 says, where I've got it highlighted. After much discussion, the City Council feels that citizens are best served by the removal of this agenda item and by the request of a detailed analysis of SPORTRAN's financials in terms of their agreement with the City of Bossier City. The City Council will also request an examination of the utilization of SPORTRAN's service within Bossier City. Now that's interesting.
Now I'm going to play devil's advocate because I can see you've got it highlighted where you're hanging your hat on the argument after much discussion. And you're going to say, well, when did they have all this discussion? And did the public have any input in this discussion? Or did they even get to hear any of this discussion? Obviously not, because they had a press release and the PR person get out there and speak. So could it not have been just a few of them talking to, kind of come up with this idea? Do you think it was a majority of them?
Well, glad you asked. Because I have
Okay.
another cute little screenshot highlighted here. So this is out of the Open Meetings Law Handbook for the state of Louisiana. You can Google it real easy and find it. And, of course, I got a bunch of highlighting here. For those that are listening to the podcast, I'm just going to kind of briefly summarize. But according to Brown versus East Baton Rouge Parish School Board, blah, 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 around about 1981, and AG opinion number 04-0004, walking quorums in which members of the body come and go, or in which absent members are contacted during the meeting so as to prevent a physical quorum of the body, are not allowed and violate prohibitions against circumventing the intent of Louisiana's open meetings law. A walking quorum can also occur via email or other electronic means where there are conversations with a quorum of the public body through multiple smaller conversations of less than a quorum. The AG has stated that such walking quorums are unlawful because while no conversation occurred with an actual quorum physically present in a single location, a quorum effectively participates in the discussion of the issue without the benefit of having the public observing the discussion. And it goes on saying you can't even poll, a quorum through through a walking quorum type situation.
Okay, so I will concede that, you know what, it was a walking quorum. I mean, they had to have had it. There's no escaping it. They had to have had it. But
how else did they come up with this?
I will concede that. And again, I'm playing the other side of it. I'm being nice here. I'm being the bad guy here. But okay, look at what we're talking about here. We're talking about giving money to SPORTRAN. And I will tell you, our sources say that, there's maybe some funny business over there in the SPORTRAN side of thing, and that Bossier City having some oversight here was definitely the correct path and the correct route, and that there's needed to be some oversight for a long time rather than just writing a check and just saying, okay, here's the money.
I don't disagree with that. As a matter of fact, like I've said before, over and over, I'm not for the city of Bossier subsidizing SPORTRAN. I mean, they're running off a federal grant anyway now, giving free bus rides to everybody. I'm not for us subsidizing that with our local tax dollars either. But two wrongs don't make a right.
Well, I agree with that, but our elected officials, if they're going to fight for us, are we going to? Is it appropriate for us to tie one hand behind their back, for them to
one
be
hand
able to
behind
fight
their back? It's pretty easy. All they have to do is have an actual meeting and discuss this. They could have literally discussed it today, but you know why they didn't? Because they had somebody there from and forgive me for misquoting the name of the organization, but they had the local president of the NAACP, somebody there from the Blind Association and all this, and they didn't want that parade of folks up there commenting while they were looking like, jackasses for pulling the carpet out, the money carpet out from under them. And that's why they didn't do it. But two wrongs don't make a right. It's real simple. Have an open meeting, open transparency.
I agree with you, but to the point, I mean, they had to be able to formulate a plan, and I think what you're saying is rather than go about it the way they did it, they should have just let all the crap hit the fan, have an open debate, and let all the people who were there to rally behind SPORTRAN see what they're really thinking and see what they really think is going on. But they don't have all those numbers and they don't have that yet, right?
Well, yeah, they should have had the battle. I mean, that's what they took a cop out and literally admitted to having a walking quorum.
Well, no, they admitted.
How else did they?
But what I'm saying is the reason for them having their reservation and wanting to back out of this in the whole beginning is because they don't know the numbers. They don't know what's really going on in the background. They're trying to get to that point.
Well, it's not like this is a new issue. They've literally had since, I don't know, the beginning of the city council to figure, or the beginning of subsidizing SPORTRAN to figure this out. It was a big issue a year ago. You remember when Tommy was against expanding the deal until he was for expanding the SPORTRAN bus.
Nobody has asked for the numbers and the details. Nobody since they've done this deal. No,
but whose fault is that? Again, they've had literally literally decades to do this.
And that's why I'm saying they're finally doing it. They're finally doing it. So
they took a cop out, and that's fine, except they admitted to doing a walking quorum again.
What else is new? Who's going to do something about it? Nobody's going to do nothing about it.
Who was it? Somebody said, what do we do about it? Basically, you have to file a lawsuit. Well, we know how far that's going to go. Of course, our good friend John Sadow was there. And, he reached out and couldn't believe what they had done. You know, he's been on Shreveport's case for kind of the same issues. Granted, you know, he's able to file lawsuits. You know, we're just, you know, non-lawyer types over here. So I guess we need us a lawyer on staff. We need a friend who's a lawyer to file lawsuits.
Well, look, here's the thing. You know, the walking quorum here, that's not the only thing stinking in Bossier. In fact,
You're right.
that ain't even a you know, one of those foo-foo candles you put in your bathroom to kill the stench. It ain't even that. we're we're fixing to get to the stench, and that's called water and sewer. So
Oh, okay.
if
Let me get to the right screenshot here. You might have to kind of tell me which screenshots or which cuts to go to, but
Oh Lord, I probably am going to have to do that.
let's
So
see.
at let's go straight to the video on 30. I think that's the best way to go about this because I have all these cuts of the city council, the agenda today, and
Ah,
we're going to go
yeah.
back to that. It's going to be a little detail, and especially if you guys watching, if you're Bossier City residents, oh boy, you better put your seatbelt on right here because you're fixing to get shell shocked. I was.
All right. So shall we go to the 30? I think it's the 37.03 mark.
That's it.
All right, here we
So
go.
let's go ahead right there.
All right.
New business. Introduce an ordinance authorizing Mayor Thomas H. Chandler to execute the attached joint cooperative endeavor agreement with the Caddo Bossier Port Commission. First reading.
So moved.
Council, I would like to, a second, I would like to ask that we continue this item until the last meeting in May 2023. What date is that?
Okay, now Rex, I'm going to get you to jump around. We need to pull the PDF. That will be cut number. Well, it's the regular council meeting February of 21st, and I want to go to. I guess I could help you out a little bit here, couldn't
Well,
I?
I
The
could,
new,
yeah, but it's easier if I do it on my end sometimes. Let me see if
yeah.
I can get to it. All right, so let's go to
I'm going to go to page 3, and we're going to
page 3.
look at the very first item in new business. You guys just heard the announcement of the agenda item at the meeting. And on page 3 here, when you're looking through the agenda, go and scroll up to page 3. Right there, Rex. Item number 1, and if you blow it up a little bit, and all you guys watching the show, now I want you all to look at that, and I want you to tell me what do you read right there?
Yeah, and
Does
for those of you that are listening by podcast, we probably need to go ahead and read it out. It says introduce an ordinance authorizing Mayor Thomas H. Chandler to execute the attached joint cooperative endeavor agreement with the Caddo Bossier Port Commission, first reading, Montgomery.
So, you know, that doesn't sound like much. That's pretty dadgum vague. I mean,
Right.
they're you know, just
Yeah, I
some
mean that's
agreement, you know, hey, you're going to buy lunch, you know, at the first meeting of every odd month, and we'll buy lunch at the first meeting of every even month. Okay, you know, you do those things, right?
yeah, I mean what could be wrong with that?
Yeah, what could be wrong with that? Well, oh, by the way, this is like an endeavor, a cooperative endeavor agreement to the tune of $30 million.
Oh,
Not
well.
anything big or major right here, not, you know. And has anybody been talking about a $30 million cooperative endeavor agreement in Bossier? Have any of you really heard anything about that?
30
I
million
hadn't,
bucks, huh?
Rex. It kind of jumped out to me. I went down to that fine little blue line, and starting at page 76, I started reading a little bit about it. And
Okay.
boy, oh boy, is there some stuff here. So let's go back to, we're going to jump back to the video, and then we'll
All
come
right.
back to the PDF.
Okay. We can do that. All right.
And
So,
keep playing, because what you have here, I'm sorry to cut you off. What you have
mhm.
here is the item was brought up. Darby, y'all notice President Darby immediately moved to continue it to another meeting. That was where we left off.
Okay. All right.
And
You gonna hit the
and
play
then
button or want me to?
oh, let me pull it up. Okay, here we go.
All right.
As of right now, the meeting would be May the 30th.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
What is, may I ask, since are you opening it up for comment?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, what's the rationale?
Well, just based on the scope of this joint corporate endeavor, I think there's still some concerns about the formula that we're using with the port to do this. And some of those things need to be discussed to make sure that we're all on the same page going forward. I understand the productiveness of it, but I think we still have some things that's unanswered, and we need to discuss that.
And it takes that long?
Well, I think we got a change in our agenda for May, so that's why I suggested it.
What? Wait a minute! This is $30 million. We're gonna take a few weeks to
Yeah,
talk
I mean,
about it. Are
Darby
you
should know
kidding
we
me?
don't shop around here. Let's get on with the 30 million programs.
$30 million, baby. We don't shop. No,
Yeah.
sorry, Bob. We can't wait. I mean, where were you when we were doing the Walter O. Bigby carriageway? I mean, we're supposed to have all the permits in place, all the easements in place and all that. But we can't wait, by gosh. We got to move forward with it. And you know what? Oh, wait a minute. The railroad won't let us come through unless you shut down one of the oldest roads in Bossier City. But no, by all means, we can't wait.
Yeah. Wow.
I got to
Let's
take a breath just a minute.
Let's hurry up and get this over with.
Okay. Well, I'm going to let him keep on going.
End of May, because we have not concretely decided.
Yes, sir. I'm going to put the agenda, the new dates on the next agenda for you guys to vote on to see if y'all are interested in changing the May calendar. But as of right now, the meeting is set for May 30th. That's the last meeting in May.
Okay. And the one before that is what date?
The meeting before that would be May the 16th.
Okay.
Correct.
The proposal that I had made would be the 9th and the 23rd would be the new meeting dates. But y'all have to vote on that to make that decision.
Okay. So, Mr. Montgomery, if it's your desire to move it up, I would be able to entertain that.
Well,
Yeah,
his
absolutely.
desire is to launch into a soliloquy.
We've been working on this, for quite some years. There's been a lot.
Okay, right out of the gate, I want to point out something to you guys. He just said we've been working on this for quite some years. Now, Rex, I made a call and I asked somebody about this. I was like, this is the first I've heard of this. How long has this been going on? And this is nobody in Bossier City, because obviously this takes more than Bossier City. I reached out to somebody over in Caddo, and they said,
it is the Caddo Bossier Port Authority, after all.
That's right. They said, this ain't been going on for years. That's bull crap. This ain't been a year's thing.
Well, he's got to have something to pout and mope about and try to get his way. But okay, that was mean.
But anyway, y'all keep listening to Queen David. Y'all keep listening to him.
Effort put into this to simplify everything as far as the payout, and the longer it goes on, of course, costs continue to rise. The port is anxious to have a secondary source for water for future tenants. It is, to me, of the utmost importance to get this done.
It's
Utmost.
utmost important to him.
That's what I should have named the show. If I'd have known, I would have named the show Of the Utmost Importance.
I mean, and look, what was that? Remember Walter Bigby? If we delay, what could be the cost? Six figures?
Yeah,
if we delay, 6 figures.
Was it 6 or 7? No, it was 7 figures.
Was it 7?
Yeah, 6, 7. Like Greg Bell said, That's jump change.
Again, biggest projects in the history of Bossier, and we can't wait.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to jump way ahead here and make a point to everybody watching, and I'm going to grab your attention on this right here. He just said they've been working on this for years, and is aggravated that this council, and Darby, to his credit, is wanting to wait a couple of weeks till the next meeting to take any action on this. So basically what the Queen is saying is he can have years to deliberate on this, but you, the public, you only get at best 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's all you get. You can't be afforded more time.
Right.
And I want to point out, he's not alone. The port is also involved in this because they're all trying to get you on this. So
I wonder why.
Y'all think about that. Years versus you getting a couple of weeks to digest this.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say the balance of power is off kilter there.
So yeah, so let me let him finish.
As quickly as possible. I guess
Quickly.
a little without, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. We've had workshops. We've talked about
I didn't see
this.
any workshops.
A win-win for the city of Bossier.
I noticed them,
the
but it's a
taxpayers.
win-win.
Oh, wait a minute. He said it's a win-win for the city of Bossier and the taxpayers. Well, what exactly is the taxpayers getting? Because he didn't finish that sentence. I cut him off right there, but I can tell you that was an incomplete sentence. I mean, he was citing the benefits to the city of Bossier, and then he said, and the taxpayers, I don't know, maybe.
Until the port sells one drop of water, we don't pay anything. I mean, and they are responsible for the debt. There's no debt on our books. I'm not sure what the questions on the formula. We passed out a sheet that shows you for each million gallons of water that are produced. And then at that point that we hit the 2.1 million debt service to the port, 100% of the water revenue comes back to the enterprise fund of.
Okay. Now, what did y'all just hear? Y'all watching the show, what did you just hear him say in the comments? I want you to explain to me what you just heard him say.
Yeah.
And Rex, I'm going to prompt you to get ready to go back to the PDF real quick, because I want to go to one specific section on page 70. I think it's 70, page 80.
All right, so I'm on 80 of the PDF. Let's see, 76, 77. Are you looking at the bottom where it says page 80?
Yeah, go to page 81.
All right, so I'm
the second
to
last paragraph.
Right there, Bossier City shall remit to the commission.
Yep.
Right,
and I want you to blow that up where folks can read that. Now, what did y'all just hear him say? You just heard him say, about the 100%. I'm gonna jump us back, and I'm gonna play it again for you. Now, look at the second paragraph right there, and I want y'all to read that, and I want y'all to tell me if these two things are the same. And he talked about some chart that was put out. I haven't seen no chart. I haven't heard of no chart. Have you seen a chart, Rex?
I haven't seen a chart, but honestly, I don't pay attention to everything the city council does, but we watch pretty much all the meetings. I don't remember any of this being in a standard meeting.
Well, this is $30 million. He's had 2 years. We get 2 weeks. I haven't seen no chart. I haven't seen it. But let me play again what he just said, and then I want y'all to read that paragraph Rex has highlighted there. And I want y'all to tell me if these two things say the same thing.
I'm not sure what the questions on the formula. We passed out a sheet that shows you for each million gallons of water that are produced. And then at that point that we hit the 2.1 million debt service to the port, 100% of the water revenue comes back to the enterprise fund of Bossier City, which is the taxpayers' money. We know that we have to produce more revenue. We know.
Okay, he said 100% will be coming back. But right here, this was in the agenda. This is the contract, and it says Bossier City shall remit to the commission no later than the 15th day after the closing of each quarter an amount equal to the lesser of an amount equal to 50% of all of collections of revenue by or through the delivery of water and sewer services to the commission and its users, less documented treatment expenses of Bossier City. So basically, whatever goes above the cost of making the water and the treatment of the water, if there's a profit, 50% of all that profit will go back to the commission. And additionally, into the next paragraph, it gets into the fact that in no event shall the total payment of the Bossier City to the commission will exceed the principal and interest amount, of the bond that the commission. So basically, while the port may be taking out the bond for this $30 million, and as Queen David says in there, or I haven't played that part, he's going to say, we're not taking any debt. They're the ones taking the debt, but basically we're going to pay for it. And he just said that we will get 100% of the money. But here in the fine print, it says we're splitting it 50%. And oh, by the way, you know how long this contract governs? And I can show you. It's on a different page. On page 80, if you scroll up, Rex, section 104. Well, you were right there. You were on the right. Oh, yeah, on page 80. I'm sorry. You were right.
Okay.
180. How long does this contract?
Yeah, let's see.
It's page 80,
Oh, yeah,
section
there we go.
104.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right there in the top, I think it says somewhere in there, if you look close, what does that say? 99
years.
So 50%. So if they do a bond, like they're talking about doing, 30 million over 30 years at no greater than 7% interest. So in 30 years, the bond gets paid off, and Bossier in this contract has to give 50% of the revenue to the port. Now, he just said 100%. Y'all heard him say it, and you see it in black and white. Which is it?
Yeah. Well, like your wife said, he's an
and what am I
accountant.
missing?
Why are we questioning him? I mean, he's got years of experience, and he does the insurance for everybody.
We shouldn't delay. We can't wait. The cost would be too great to delay, right?
Yeah. I mean, it would, because Queen David said so.
Well, he said so. You're right. He said so. So, boy, I done got off here.
It's like mind blown.
So, but interestingly, he says, and I'm going to jump up in the restream if you can take us back there. That was a major point that I want to show you guys. So all of y'all watching, I mean, you heard his words and you see what was in writing. I mean, are we just making crap up here? Or did you not hear it and did you not see it?
The proof's in the pudding.
Okay.
Oh, and by the way, I would like to point out, if you have public comments on an agenda item, you can call or send them to 549-4595. Okay.
Well, Mark Smith, I mean, so you're saying that everything in the document that was put right there in the agenda, you're saying that's all of it? Is there anything else? Or is that all of it right there? Anyway, we'll keep going.
Okay.
Can't wait on the comments. So let's play the 4059 mark.
2.1 million debt service to the port. 100% of the water revenue comes back to the enterprise fund of Bossier City, which is the taxpayers' money. We know that we have to produce more revenue. We know from the facts, Clinton, if you want to step up to the mic, that our production costs have increased by roughly, 40 to 50%?
Yes, sir.
Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir.
That's a big number. And would you agree and concur that unless we seek revenue, an alternate revenue source, what's the only other solution?
It's my understanding rates would need to be increased.
That is correct, and we.
Uh-oh, he just threatened
Okay,
everybody
what?
with a rate increase.
So all of you, if you don't go along, you're going to get rate increases. Now, Rex, I'm confused here because the man has articulated how well the management of the city has been being run. Why are we having to have rate increases? Why are we talking about rate increases here when we've done such a fine job managing the finances of, and I got another question. If the port is taking the bonds out, and he says here in just a minute that that we're not having to put any debt on our books, Bossier City isn't, the port is. Why didn't we do it? Why didn't we just do it on our own? Why does the port have to do it for us? I mean, is there a problem? Can we not get the debt, or will it solidify our ranking as being the highest debt per capita of any state? I mean, any city in the state. Is that the problem? Or maybe we couldn't get as good of a rate as what maybe the port could get because our rating isn't as good. Is that the problem? I mean, are those not valid arguments?
Yeah, very valid arguments. I mean, and look, I just want to point out, so our good friend, former amigo of three, Shane Cheatham, and let's see, Weston Marriott, and who else pointed out? Anyway, somebody said that, oh, Holly Cole, it's the same names that we keep hearing and seeing all the time. It's like this big circle.
Now, what I'm curious, Rex, and we keep talking about the same names. I mean, who determined the rate schedule? I mean, who determined what the water bill rate schedules were? I mean, and I'm wondering when Shreveport got into all the problems that they had over there on their water billing. I mean, who determined their rate schedules over there too? I'm thinking out loud here because something says to me that there's some common things here. I'm just wondering.
Common threads, common names, common things. It's just, it's like chewing oysters. It just keeps going on and on and on.
So for all you peons out there in Bossier City, unless you get on board and support 30 million, more dollars. Oh, wait a minute. That's right. All of y'all, unless you keep paying your taxes for the Port Commission to come and go and do whatever they please. And unless you get on board, oh, by the way, guess what? You're going to have your water rate increase because of the quality management that you have going on in Bossier City. I think I got it correct. I think that's the way, right?
Oh, close enough. Yeah.
So I'm going to jump ahead because this video keeps going. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good. We got to play it.
Oh, yeah. Hit it.
We in turn make money to ensure to the taxpayers of Bossier City that we don't have to go up on water rates. And I think we've all been here long enough, not all of us, but several of us, that when you raise water rates, you raise the blood pressure of everybody in this city, and you will hear about it. And we sit here before us with an opportunity to create revenue, and essentially it doesn't cost us any debt service. I mean, we don't have to put anything on the books. We don't have to go borrow money. The port's borrowing the money for us, and until we sell our first drop of water, we're not responsible for paying anything. We built this water plant for an additional 20 to 25 million gallons a day capacity for this very reason, so that one.
Okay, we built our water capacity for this very reason. And if it's such a great deal, why don't the port just go and do it on their own? Why do we have to have anything involved in here?
Yeah, let me ask you something though, because I've been thinking
Am I
about this
missing
for
something?
well, I've been thinking about this for a minute, and I didn't read the entire cooperative endeavor agreement, line for line or whatever. But who is responsible? So they're going to have to bore under the river, all right, because they got to move the fresh water over there. They've got to have a return line or whatever for the wastewater that they're going to treat, and that's got to go all the way to the whatever treatment plant that is by the river. Anyway, so who's responsible or who's bearing that cost? Because it's not cheap to bore under the river.
Well, that's going to be part of the $30
30
million
million?
the port.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. And so who's going to bear the cost of tying into the main lines on the Bossier side and all that? Is that still part of the
Well,
30, or do you know? Did you read that far into it?
well, interestingly, the Mancheck guy here says that they're already installing a
Oh,
24-inch line to Hope Street down there. So
well, I'll be darned.
they're already doing what they've got to do to increase the capacity to supply that, however many millions of gallons per day. I think they're talking about to the tune of 10 million gallons per day,
Mhm.
in which interestingly, listen to this next section, because apparently this unknown chart or letter or whatever that has apparently been being put out there, that all of us out here on, I mean, we get 2 weeks to try to get our hands on it, or to possibly even be able to cast our eyes on it. But for years politicos have been all up in the middle of this. But apparently, let me just listen to this.
5-10 years at least.
I believe the rate study said 5 to 10 years at least.
I mean, we potentially, if we sell what is in the agreement, 10 million gallons of water a day, is it not feasible that we make $9 to $10 million a year? I believe that was on the chart.
I believe so, yes, sir.
So I would strongly encourage the people that are listening today to this discussion to reach out to your respective councilmen and the other councilmen at large and express your in favor vote of this council going forward with this agreement. It's something that's before us. It's something that will solve our problems. It solves the port's problems, which is an economic partner for the Sadow, Bossier governments, everybody around here. So I would hopefully like to see this be a 7-0 vote in the future. I would say that I would like to see it continue 2 weeks, and us, whatever needs to be resolved, if we need our city attorney to look at it, but whatever, and I'm happy to sit down.
Why don't he
This is
get
something that
Phyllis? He needs
Yeah,
to
he
ask
should have.
Phyllis.
He should have phoned a friend. She's like right across the deal.
Phyllis. He didn't invoke Phyllis. I don't get it.
I'm
Well, I mean,
surprised. I'm surprised he didn't say point of order.
why does he care so much? It's killing me. I
It's
don't get it.
almost like if we follow the money, we might find out the answer to your question.
Well, wait a minute. Are you talking about? Are you talking about that I've got my screen
Let's
shared?
see. Now hold on. We can't be stingy here. We need to share your screen out. Oh, what is this? This looks like a deal. Oh, name of business, Montgomery Agency Inc. Name of income source, police jury, amount of income, $105,000 and $105,406. Wow. Oh, there's one. Oh, wait, that's interesting. That seems familiar. The name of the income source to the business, to the Montgomery Agency, the name of the income source is the Caddo Bossier Port Commission. Where have we heard that before? Oh, we were just talking about it.
Well, then there's another business right underneath that one, David A. Montgomery Jr. Insurance, Caddo Bossier Port Commission, $14,169. Now, the interesting thing was this is a report in 2021. This wasn't
Oh.
even 2022.
Well, see, he was right. They have been working on this for years. They've been greasing him up for years.
Well, but I've got another question, and it's, what, somebody's got to write the insurance. He's in the insurance business. I'm sure that of all the insurance companies that are submitting bids on the insurance, that there's competitive bidding and that it's all, on the up and up. I have no doubt. But what I am concerned with is that here he is the lead advocate and has been working on this for years as a Bossier City councilman. He's arguably the guy doing the most arguing in favor of it, and he's got a vested interest in it.
Oh, but that's
I
not
mean,
really that much money.
he's
I
receiving.
mean, come on, Duke. We're talking. We're only talking 50 grand, give or take a little,
But what
50,
will it be?
60,000.
What will it end up being? I mean, some insurance, and I don't know if this is the case, some insurance is based off of gross receipts. Well, I mean, look, what about the port? I mean,
That's a
is
lot
it,
of receipts, and it's really
but
gross.
I mean, the port has all these different, people that will be out there that will be buying water from them or what have you. I mean, is it based off of gross receipts or is it, I don't know how the structure is. I mean, maybe if we had a copy of the policies, we would be able to know how it's structured and whether that is an issue or whether that's not an issue. But either way, he's receiving a financial benefit from the port. He writes the insurance for them, and he's here the lead advocate on the Bossier City Council to get the Bossier City Council to ink a deal where he said 100%. The thing there said a 50% split. I mean, I don't know. Maybe maybe I'm missing something.
No, but I want to point out a couple of comments because several of them have been about water quality, and some of them kind of jokingly, but probably with a lot of elements of truth to it. But I would just like to remind everybody that Bossier's water comes from the Red River, and the Red River literally drains all of the sewers of Oklahoma. And I would like to point out that in our infinite city and parish's wisdom, they put the water intake downriver from the sewer outflow of the sewer treatment plant on the north side of the north end of the river. I know it's supposed to be safe water when it comes out of the treatment plant. I'm sure it probably is, but I'd just like to point that out, that they put the water intake for the fresh water downriver from the outflow of the treated sewage water.
Now there's a lot to unwrap here, Rex. So if we're treating all the sewer and we're going to be responsible for all of it as well, I mean, the port over there, that is an industrial complex. I mean, are we taking ownership of any industrial waste that if, say, they had a release, we'll own it and it'll then be responsible for it? And Mark Smith says, why are they needing so much water? Well, Mark, great question. And that makes me, have a couple of different thoughts as well. The port doesn't pay any property taxes. They don't pay any sales taxes. I mean, I'm wondering, what, if we had all that water capacity for businesses in Bossier, or especially in South Bossier, maybe we should consider trying to get some of that industrial stuff over in South Bossier. Maybe we could get some property tax revenues if I mean, am I wrong thinking there?
No, I think you're on to something there. And considering, the tenants at the port's a taxing authority, right? The Caddo Bossier Port Authority, aren't they a taxing authority?
We're already paying for them. We're already
Okay.
paying all that.
And we've covered them before or started to cover them, but seems like their budget was like a huge amount. I mean, am I remembering that, they're a fairly
Well,
large, without
you'll
much
recall,
oversight government body?
you'll recall a couple of legislators gave them that sweetheart deal to where they can go anywhere in Northwest Louisiana and do anything they want. If they want to come in next to your house and build a pig factory, they can do it, and there ain't nothing you can do about it. And while, Alan Seaball, I haven't heard Barrow Peacock to say that that's not the case, but I have heard that Alan Seaball has said that's not the case. Well, I'm telling you that is in fact the case, and you can read it in black and white yourself in the bills. I mean, they can go and do whatever they want. They don't have to seek the approval of the Bossier Parish Police Jury or whoever. They don't have to do that.
So your bride points out a interesting tidbit. She says, since Shreveport is under consent decree, they can't get a loan to build a new plant. Port is scared Shreveport, not a reliable source. Maybe she's on to something with that. I mean, let me ask you this. What's the real issue with selling water to the Port Authority? If Bossier can do it, and if we have the excess capacity.
Well, let me ask you this. What happens when the port, if they expand so much business over there in Caddo Parish, when we could have had that, extra water supply and the expansion of business in Bossier, but what happens when they expand to the point that they consume every bit of water that Bossier can produce and then some, and then some? I mean, if you look in this
Okay.
agreement, in which I made notes in it already as I was perusing through it, they have a contract that says they got to provide it. And are we going to cut back on you, Bossier citizens' water? Are we going to
Oh,
cut you back
oh
unless
no.
you
Never,
agree to an increase in your water
never,
bills?
never
And
let a good crisis go to waste. They would just need more money to expand their operations
and I want
and
to point something
capacity.
else out. Yeah, and I want to point something else out right here while we're at it. So for all of you that maybe want to defend the port, maybe it's because we've got to increase revenue for the port because they do have in Eric England. I mean, the guy's got him a $400,000 a year salary over there. I
Oh yeah,
mean,
well, they got to be able to support that.
and and King David says in that video, he says, it's our fiduciary duty to continue to seek revenue. Well, obviously there's a problem with Bossier getting a bond, or else we would have just done it on our own. But and so they're seeking somehow or another to get revenue. He's saying $9 to $10 million. I mean, can any of y'all believe that there's $9 to $10 million worth of profit to be had off of selling water and cleaning poop? I'm sorry,
Well,
I don't think it is. But
yeah, but
what?
let me just say this, and this is kind of off on a little bit of a tangent, but water is the next oil. I mean, granted, around here we still have plenty of
That's
water, but
right.
I'm just telling you, like somebody said in the comments, things could change, or the river could change course. I mean, there's all kinds of things that could happen. We could experience, we just had a little short drought of a few months with not much rain or whatever. A lot of things could change.
A lot can change, but I think this all takes us full circle. And I'm gonna play devil's advocate. People articulate that Bossier in its wisdom, in which, with the term limits thing, I knocked on a door of a former political person this weekend. And he advocated that Bossier was wise to take out the debt that they've taken out to get the infrastructure. And today, you have the city of Shreveport with failing infrastructure and having to get loans and debt at a higher rate now. And that because of that wisdom, we took out all that debt when we did, and that was a wise decision. I would contend that, you know what, they could be right. Because obviously, if you can take out a loan and get something at a cheaper rate earlier than having to pay later, I mean, it makes sense. You're saving money in the long run, right?
Right.
Over the big picture. But that's based on you having a consistent source of revenue, correct?
Correct.
To support it.
In theory, it
So
should be.
so I'm just wondering what happens if Texas passes gambling over there, which I think is supposed to be on the ballot in the fall.
Interesting. Ah, even more casino revenue and tax revenue goes away.
Are are we gonna have a money pinch and have to start shuffling money around again? How much is it gonna squeeze us? I tend to think that if you put a casino in Dallas or you open it up over there, that you're gonna see things dry up, like the Sahara Desert here in Bossier City.
Well, it's already a shell game with the casinos because they put too many and look, granted I've gone down there to eat. I don't really gamble and play the slot machines a few times, but gambling's not really my thing except for bass tournaments. But I would argue that they overbuilt or put too many casinos in, and that's why we've seen this shell game and all this turnover in the casinos around here anyway. So,
Yeah,
anyway,
I'm just saying, I mean, I think it's still to be determined about that wisdom and all, but what I will say is I think that there's a lot of folks that are punching their ticket now, and it makes me mad, and because none of them are going to be around when this debt starts uh, falling apart. None of them are going to be around to say, you know what, I was wrong. It's going to be in our kids afterwards are going to be the ones that's going to be left holding the bag. And I hope that's not the case. I hope I'm wrong.
Well, I hope you're wrong, but this is an ongoing deal, so that remains to be seen. Okay. What's next? We've had a guest in the wings for a little bit waiting. Shall we move on to our next guest, or what's on the agenda?
We have tortured him. I think we
I
have
know.
tortured him longer than we've tortured anyone before in the history of the show. So yeah, without Mark Smith, I love it. Mark Smith just will not ever give up.
He just won't give up. Okay, so let me see if I can get our screens switched here. Hold on just a second. Let me try to do all this and get this going. And let me do this and that and click this and click
It
that.
will pinch us, Mark Smith. Don't deny it.
All
It will
right.
pinch us if it dries up.
Oh.
Well, I want to ask. No, I want to ask. I want to ask the senator that if our casinos were to all start drying up because Texas started having casinos, is that going to hurt us?
Oh, good grief, yes. No doubt about it. One thing I promised 4 years ago when I was running for office, I would fight for every job in the district, every legal job in the district, and there's thousands of them. It may not be pretty. I'm not a gambler. Rex said the same thing. I mean, I learned the hard way early on when the casinos were new that it was not my cup of tea. But I appreciate those jobs, and my preacher tells me maybe I shouldn't like them as much as I do, but I like them.
I heard that. Well, I would tell you when I was at the fire department still, I actually worked down there at the Isle of Capri Casino, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed learning about that business and kind of what they did down there, and it it was interesting. It really was. So
Well, it's an unusual business to say the least. It's been here a long time. It's entrenched. We mostly fleece those Texas people, and that makes it taste a little bit better. But I warn people about gambling, and gambling's a problem for a lot of people. It's an ugly scene, but it nevertheless is a part of our economy.
Yeah, I think it goes back to that whole thing of everything in moderation. And unfortunately, some people can't seem to moderate their gambling habits. But you're right, it's part of the deal, and so we may as well generate as much revenue as we can off of it. So I don't know what Duke's got on the agenda to speak to you about this evening, but if I recollect, you signed something pretty important just a couple of days ago down there at around Bossier City Hall.
Well, I was pleased to be invited to join you guys at the term limits event that you had. But I told Duke while I was there, I've been a term limits fan for many, many years and a member of the U.S. term limits. I was recognized by the U.S. term limits group in 2020 for having signed a pledge. As soon as I ran for public office, I signed everything I could sign to her. Anybody curious that I was going to support term limits in every single elected position, and I think it's extremely healthy to turn seats over. I can't say every seat's 12 years. I can't say every seat's 10 years, but I think term limits are valuable. It induces younger people to come back into the system, and good young people are our future. We've got to make room for them. And if we think anybody's so valuable we can't do without them, we need to rethink what we think. It's term limits are a part of our landscape, and nobody needs to be in service for 20 years. We need to figure out some way to throttle those things, and I was proud to sign up for you guys. But it's not my first term limits pledge. I've signed every term limits pledge I've ever been put in front of.
Oh,
Well,
speaking of, oh, go ahead, Duke.
Well, I was just gonna say thank you for, showing your conviction and showing what you believe. And, you know, for, I mean, you're in the legislature and you're kind of at the heart of politics in Louisiana. And it makes me wonder, why is it so difficult for a lot of politicians to, you know, step out of the way to do what George Washington did, and to that model? Why is that so difficult? I mean, some people would say they forget where they come from, but have you had any observations? Why is it that folks don't want to get out of the way and let other people step up? I mean, do you have any ideas?
Duke, I really approach all of it. I assume very differently than most people. I came into this position really at the invitation of some people that asked me to run for office. It wasn't necessarily what I intended to do, but it was an honor, a privilege to step into a spot and to represent the good people of my first session, Bossier, Webster, Claiborne, Bienville Parish, and I'm glad I did that. I'm looking forward to doing it again. I've recently announced my bid for re-election, but I cannot explain to you why somebody wants to do this for the rest of their life. I've got a limited number of years left, and I've got a number of things I'd like to do. It would be very, very valuable if I could, and I think I will be a part of a change in Louisiana, but I don't want to hang around long after I've made what impact I can make. And so you'd have to ask those folks that have been there. Talk to Francis Thompson. My golly, there's some people that have been there a very long time, even working around the term limits issue. I can't speak for them, and don't try to.
Well, speaking of the reelection, I hadn't been watching the campaign scene that much, but is there anybody running against you for the seat that you've heard about yet, or do you know the status, of that or anything?
Well, I know the status. Of course, that's public information. Nobody has declared. Nobody's, they've got till July to do so. And I'd be pretty, I mean, I've been lucky. Let me tell you, Rex, I've been lucky all my life. But I don't know that I've been so lucky that I could not be opposed for a re-election to a Senate seat. That's one of 39 in the state of Louisiana. And so anybody in the district, and this is the new district, not the old district, anybody in the district has until late July to declare. And I'd be, quite honestly, I'd be surprised if nobody wants to run. But again, it's not for the faint of heart. There's my opponent and myself both spent probably over $1 million in the last race, and I would assume it's a $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 event, and not everybody wants to do that. I don't want to do it again, but I'm going to go out and campaign in my district, meet people that I have not met before, knock on doors, just like I'm opposed, and that's I think the right thing to do. So if somebody comes on, come on, I mean that's America. Everybody's welcome to take a shot at it. It's not for the faint of heart. I'll tell you that.
No doubt about it. I was going to ask you, have you got any bills in the cooker for this session already, or what are you working on, or what do you intend to try to work on?
Well, thanks, Duke. I mean, being a fiscal only session this year, primarily we go down just deal with the budget that's presented by the governor and try to come to some kind of a reasonable disposition of the money. And so there's not many bills out there. I was working on a bill very early on with the Louisiana Baptist Association that deals with the absolute ability for churches to stay open under all conditions. No such thing as an emergency that shuts your church down. And somebody else is probably going to be the lead author of that at this point in time, and that's the politics of it all, and that's fine. I don't want my name on anything just for the sake of having my name on it. But I do want to help the Baptist Association get a bill through that assures that no governor of the state of Louisiana ever shuts a church down for any reason. That's not the role of a governor. And so that's in the books. I've got another bill that I'm still trying to generate revenue from the sale of state-owned running water to try to help us control giant salvinia. It's not a popular bill. The oil and gas industry doesn't like it, but most of them don't, but some of them do. And so I'm insistent somebody, the state of Louisiana doesn't be giving away a thing of value. That's against our Constitution. And whether it's dimes, nickels, quarters, or whatever, we do not need to be giving away a thing of value. Whether it's trees, whether it's oil, gas, water, don't give things away. This is the people's assets. And I've gotten kind of mad about it. That the oil and gas industry, which I'm a part of, is just, I can't say it, in public, is so CS, piddling that they don't want to pay for water. That's just not right, and it's not fair. It's not reasonable. And I think long term we have, and I'm working on a bigger picture for water management, and we are a water-rich state, but that doesn't mean that we just don't pay attention to it. We've got to manage, we've got to be aware of what we've got, and we've got to be better stewards of our fresh water. And so I'm kind of leading the charge on that, and that's going to be a long-term project for me. And this year I'll have a bill in that regard too. So I've got several things. They're not earth-shaking. I don't seek attention, but I'm trying to fix things that are wrong. And insurance industry is something I'm very much involved in both sides as a consumer, as an advocate for the insurance industry. And so, I've got some ideas in there, and I've got ideas in the medical field. I ran a bill last year that dealt with doctors having to go through an elaborate process for the pre-approval of a procedure that they do on a daily common basis, trying to make it easier on medical doctors, but nevertheless, controlled by the guy that's paying for it, insurance company. So I've got some ideas there as well, but it's mostly watching what the governor's put on the table and trying to do the best we can with the budget that he's put on the table.
Yeah, well, we won't, it's getting kind of late tonight, so we won't belabor some of the points that you mentioned, but I did get my ears to perk up when you mentioned the giant salvinia problem and, of course, the insurance problem. I'll just share this. My son moved to Texas, and he's working over there, and he does not have the best driving record, let's just say that. But just as an example, for similar coverage over here, he's paying like literally half in Texas of the amount that he was paying in Louisiana. So that seems to be an ongoing issue that we need to have you back on, and we'll have some more discussions about that.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because we talked about it in 2020. Louisiana's got horrible cost of insurance. Some of it's based on our driving record. Some of it's based upon our judicial system. We're the seventh worst judicial hellhole in the nation. We've earned some real bad reputation, and our driving record is poor. So let's visit about that at a later date.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, my original oilfield service company was Louisiana based and is now Oklahoma based, specifically because of insurance. And you weren't the senator then, but I'm one of the examples. I'm one of the people that had to move their company out of Louisiana because of insurance, and hadn't had any problem. I got a clean CSA, no problems. I mean, you can't get better than my CSA, but just we've got a problem, both commercial and residential policies. Anyway, and hey, back to that asset thing. So all that salvinia, You mean that we can't, nobody will take it?
Actually, I gave a little money to the University of Louisiana at Lafayette last year for them to try to generate some uses for salvia. They were doing some experiments with pressing the oil out of salvia and trying to figure out what they could make from that oil, and to try to induce people eventually to be able to harvest salvia, pull it out of the lake, and actually either contribute it or sell it. But we haven't found anything salvia is worth at this point in time. It's a real struggle.
Well, we'll have to dedicate a whole show just to the Salvinia discussion too, because I've got plenty to say about that as a local bass fisherman. But anyway, and I want to make this crystal clear too, is obviously I didn't support you in the last campaign for senator, but I got to say this. I really appreciate, and I've said this before, I really appreciate the fact that you come on the show, you answer any of the questions that we throw at you. If we happen to see you in person or whatever, you don't run from any of the questions or dodge from any of the questions. So I certainly appreciate that.
Well, Rex, I work for you. I work for Duke. I work for everybody in the district, and I'm not going to run from an issue. And so, no, you're welcome to ask me anything you want, and I'll give you my opinion. I may hurt your feelings, I may not, but I'll tell you exactly what I think. I'm not scared of anybody. I absolutely motivated to do the right thing, and I'm going to keep that up. I'm too old to change my ways.
Well, I certainly appreciate it. It's, much to the dismay of some of my friends that are in the comments, it may be a surprise for them to know that since you've done several interviews with us and all that, I've actually come to think you're a pretty good guy, as a matter of fact. So I've always enjoyed having you on the show and in the times we talked.
Say that again, Senator. You cut out.
Well, like I say, my mother thought I was a good guy, and I really try to be. It's too late in life to try to grandstand or do something stupid. I'm trying to do the right thing, the smart thing, and finish on a high note.
Well, I appreciate you coming out and showing your conviction on term limits, and I will say that since we had that sign up day out there, you showing up, that showed you to be a leader. In my, a lot of politicians, some have went online and signed up online, but you stepped up there, and there's a lot of politicians that don't like that, and I appreciate it and I respected the fact that you did, and we've got quite a bit of a list of politicians who have signed. They weren't able to be there, but have signed up that we haven't released their names. And on that note, I want to say to all the other elected officials that are out there, don't be the guy left holding the bag and you hadn't got on board with this train, because we are well on our way to collect the signatures needed in the city to get it as a referendum. And, as far as the parish, we are going to make a strong showing with the signatures for all of the legislators, including the one on our show right now, to show you that the public, is a body that wants it. And polling all across the country, this well as anybody, shows 80 to 90% in favor of term limits, and it crosses party lines. So thank you for coming out and showing your support. I truly appreciate it.
Well, it's my pleasure, and like I say, I've been committed to that for a long time, and I appreciate your work on it, Duke and Rex. Thank you for that, and your interest in Bossier. I'm trying to learn. I'm looking forward to representing Bossier City if I get reelected, and I'm trying to learn more about the infrastructure of Bossier City as we speak. So this was an interesting conversation you had tonight. We'll visit about that more later.
Okay, well, glad to have you on. And what are we bumping? 9 o'clock here, Duke. I'm sure you've got better things to do than sit here and chat necessarily all night with Duke and I. So anyway, appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Senator. Well, I hate that we tortured him for so long in the green room. That was
Hey,
just
I'll just blame it on you. You know, I was trying to get him on, and you just kept saying, no, keep him in the green room for just a little bit longer. Let's torture him some more.
Yeah, but we were talking about the city of Bossier. I mean,
know
good
that
grief. I would love to
blasted.
talk about something other than the city of Bossier, but I mean, how can we not?
Yeah, blasted David Montgomery keeps getting in the way. He's pesky. So, are you reading the comments?
I mean, God, Mark Smith. I don't know. I just feel like I like this person. I don't know who it is, but I feel like I like him.
Well, you know, I'm gonna put some of the comments up on the screen. I know some of my friends, you know who you are in the comments, sent a nice email about questions that I could have done the gotcha thing with Senator Mills and all that. But look, the truth is, he won by I forget what percentage he had, basically 2 or 3 to 1 in the last election, and that race is over. The next race is coming. So if you want those questions answered again, well, you got a race coming up. That's all I'll say about that.
Well, that's all that I got. I mean, I ain't got nothing else. That's it.
Yeah, well, I see. Let me put a little cute green check mark. Hold on. Down here by term limits. We actually covered all of our topics tonight. We hit term limits, the Port Authority, mucho dinero. Well, he didn't really get to say much because, well, the city council thing. Robert Mills had a good segment with Jeff Sadow again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So next week, I mean, hopefully our segment on Bossier and the water was informative. You know, I mean, we may be off on a little bit, and I would love. Mark Smith was making a point saying that you're reading something wrong or whatever. Well, by all means, point it out to me or send us the right information. But I don't think there's a lot of information out there. I mean, and if they've been working on this for years, why is it just now coming to light? It shouldn't be.
Right.
But hey, next week, so we got censored the week before, right? And you know, you used to laugh at me a little bit when we first started talking about it. You kind of were like skeptical, and that was the tech guy in you.
Well, but let me say this again, too, and I shared this with you before the show on a phone call earlier today. But anyway, I've been listening to a YouTube live stream from I think it was from the House of Representatives. Anyway, so I think it was a House hearing, anyway, on the Twitter situation and the Twitter files and all that. And there is definitely something to that, without a doubt. I think in our case, somebody reported us and Facebook killed the stream. Now, to their credit, Facebook did let us continue on about 45 minutes later. I would argue maybe our reach hasn't been quite as good lately, but, you know, that remains to be seen. We, you know, could just be an off period or whatever, so.
Well, next week, now, some of you in the past, and the reason I raised that about the censorship thing is in the past, we have had Jill Hines on before. And Jill Hines, back when COVID was raging and we all had to have jabs and the masks and everybody was losing their mind. We're all going to die of COVID unless you wear your masks and unless you get the jab, right? And Jill came on and was setting everybody straight. Well, you know, she had a little lawsuit, and maybe, yes, she did, and maybe in my ignorance, I didn't realize the significance of her lawsuit. But her lawsuit was one of the significant ones regarding the censorship stuff, and there was some stuff that was gleaned from that. And we're going to have her on to kind of give us an update on, you know, her fight on the health freedom front, as well as the lawsuit that she was involved in that kind of opened the door to see into some of the censorship stuff. And we're going to go down that road, and we're going to start easing down this election integrity and the censorship stuff a little bit more with another guest who we've talked about it for 3 shows and haven't named his name because good grief, if they censor us anymore, I mean, it'll just be me and you talking to each other.
Yeah, it's like Beetlejuice deal. We got to be careful.
Yeah. So anyway, that'll be next week.
All right. Well, that sounds like a good plan. Look, I'd like to remind everybody, if you have some information to share with us, we say it every week, but you can email that to bossierwatch@protonmail.com. We suggest, if you want to stay anonymous, if it's something that you're worried about your job or whatever it may be, go make a free protonmail.com account. Don't put any identifying information in what you send to us. But email bossierwatch@protonmail.com. We do take a look at all those. We got a couple during the show. But we do take a look at those. If you just have a regular email you want to send us, bossierwatch@gmail.com. We're also, this is going live to Twitter right now, as well as live to YouTube at the same time. So we're trying to give you a variety of ways to watch. And as soon as the show ends, I'll start working on creating the audio file so that the podcast will be published basically within 24 hours. Usually it's by in the morning. The podcast will show up on, let's see, what all are we on? We are on Apple Podcasts. We are on, Spotify, Anchor FM, and several others, Google Podcasts. So if you want to listen to the audio only version, you can do that as well.
And that may be where where we're seeing the numbers. Hopefully that's the case, is that folks are jumping off of Facebook, because if Facebook are going to treat people the way they're going to treat them, then I hope everybody does move.
Yeah.
But at best case, it may force Facebook to change and get with the program and not do stupid stuff.
Yeah, Facebook is our primary platform at the moment, but it is certainly not the only one. As a matter of fact, next week I'm going to try to have us publishing live to Telegram. I'm going to have to test that first, but we may actually be doing that as well. So we're going to be here no matter what. If Facebook cuts us off, we'll just move to another platform.
Sound like a plan to me. Well, until that time, thanks everybody for watching, and good night, my good friend Rex.
Good night. We will see y'all next week, same time, same place, with our guest, Jill Hines. Good night.